All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Arcade Tirade, the podcast. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Arcade Tirade, the podcast that's all about them video games. I'm your host, Zuver.
Phantom Outlaw.
Sound like you were laughing.
Yeah. Most aggressive hay on the planet.
Yeah, I did kind of overdo it. But screw it, let's keep going. So this is the episode for April 29th. Let's do the damn show.
Oh, man.
Gotta remember to be a little bit more reserved with those hays, I guess.
Nah, keep it up. It's
hope I didn't
hilarious.
take anybody out in your household that was hearing.
No, that shit was hilarious.
Yeah, I thought about that when I did. I was like, oh, man, people that are listening are going to shit their pants. Good. Wake them up. This comes out on Monday, so, people need that anyway.
Exactly.
Right. So, what have you been playing lately, man?
Oh, God. Yoshi's Cardboard Country, Crafted World.
I was thinking there for a second, like, oh, they got another one?
No.
No, that makes sense, though. Like, if you had to just, like, think off the top of your head, like, what's this called?
Yeah, like, I used to do that with Lucario. I would call him Rosario Dawson, the actress.
Yeah.
Just remember, because I'm bad with names. So I would talk to one of our coworkers who loves Pokemon about names. I'm like, I know the Pokemon, but I suck with names. And I just call Lucario Rosario Dawson. He would know who exactly I was talking about. I've been playing, Mortal Kombat 11 came out Tuesday. And I got some bones to pick with that piece of shit game. I've been off and on with a few racing games. I'm still speed running Resident Evil 2 for no reason, just
You're
for fun.
refining that, trying to get it down, shed off the seconds?
Well, I got it to 120, hour and 20 now. But then I saw some speedrunners recently that they beat it under like an hour. It's an 8-hour game. I'm like, damn, speedrunners ain't no joke. So I'm not trying to get the world record or anything, but I'm just trying to do it for fun. It's kind of fun to do it. Speedrun games, I really don't usually do it. It's kind of fun doing that particular game.
I'm sure a lot of those guys don't have a job either.
Well, I usually watching them on Twitter. I'm sure their full-time job is doing it there. So
right, I mean, besides the playing.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know, but yeah, you would have to put hell of time into making the game your bitch and knowing where to. Yeah, it's just amazing how they do that. But so Yoshi, and before MK, I think I was playing I will farm together with my kid. Been playing that a lot. That's a fun little farm game. And I don't like farm games really, but that one's a really good one.
It's just called Farm?
Farm Together.
Oh, Farm Together. I thought you were saying you're playing Farm Together. Yeah. Huh.
Oh, well, yeah. That's the name of the game is Farm Together.
You're playing Farm Together.
Together, yes. And that's a very good game. I haven't played a farming game since Harvest Moon.
Is it similar to Harvest Moon?
That's the thing. I haven't played Harvest Moon since PS1. So it's been a while. This one, you can, how to describe it? You level up your trees and your vegetables and whatever over.
That just sounded funny.
Oh, well, the more you plant them, the more your farm levels up, and you can buy new pieces of land for your map, and that map looks huge. And your character levels up, and you get new outfits and hair and everything. It's pretty good. I like how they also keep like the seasons. You can see when the seasons change, when you can plant certain vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. And so she and I can play together too, and we can go on each other's farm and do missions. They have little missions like collect 20 tulips and you'll get a badge or something, and it helps you can get your house decorated. It's pretty cool. This to me is what Animal Crossing. There's some elements of this I wish Animal Crossing would have done. I think I would have played that a little bit more. Animal Crossing just seems too. Well, all games are repetitive, but this is kind of like Animal Crossing is really. I think it's fun for a while, and then it gets kind of stale to some degree.
Right.
That's all I've been playing.
I had the same problem. Had the same problem with Minecraft. You get burnt out after a while. Is there a wedding, like a marriage system in this game?
I know my time in Portia, or is it Portia or Portia? Portia. They have that in that game. It's sort of like a farming game, but that game you can fight monsters and stuff. It's like an RPG / farm game / something else. So I'm planning on getting that so she and I can play that. That's like something she'll enjoy too. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I like seeing more genre-defined games. You know, we don't have games like ActRaiser anymore.
No. Or, I mean, if they do, it's indie.
Right, there are some indie games out there that do that.
Sekiro. Sekiro, made by From Software.
Sekiro.
Sekiro. That's pretty good. And apparently, some soy boys couldn't beat the game in time to review it. So they complained that From Software isn't making games for everybody. According to them, I was like, oh my God.
You mean it's not easy enough?
Yeah, they're bitching about it not having an easy mode. Because they can't beat it. Whoever was, I think Polygon, the same issue that the people that are playing Cuphead was having. It's the same thing with this game. And From Software make their games this way. And I think people going into the games know it's going to be hard. When From Software do games now, it's kind of have different takes on Dark Souls mechanics, but you just got to get good. And they're saying the gamer's not for everybody, but they need to put an easy mode on it. So they were bitching about that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, a handicapped person beat the game before they did.
Well, since when was a game supposed to be for everybody? Since when have all games been designed to be for everybody? They're not. They're not always.
Since we had this participation trophy generation.
I mean, there are plenty of other options out there if they want easy. They can play Mario 3D World, where you get a power-up if you screw up 3 times in a row.
And plus, games have been... What's the last... Most games now hold your hand, so I think even grown-ups have gotten conditioned to games that give you, an easy out. And so when they get a game like this, again, the only people I heard complaining about it was these idiots at Polygon. It was either them or Kotaku. Because they couldn't beat the game in time to review it, so they were, again, bitching. They've been bitching a lot. And, I don't know how much you've been keeping up with new, but every game lately has, even Persona 5. Oh, my God. They're bitching about... so they also jumped on Smash Brothers. The character Joker, I guess he's got a song, and they thought that the song said retarded, and it said, I think, retort it. I think the Japanese person singing the song, it sounded, I guess they got an accent, so it sounded like they said retarded, and another outraged mob had a fit over that, and then they found out that wasn't what it was said. So they had to issue an apology, but they kept the old article up. So, and then a new character for Persona 5, Royale, I think it's called Royale or Royal. They're upset over one of the characters' legs showing showing thighs. They want her to be covered up.
Okay, well then what about Chun-Li?
Or we've been past. I think when Street Fighter V came out, they changed Cammy's intro where it's like a cross shot. So Capcom bent the knee and changed that, and then one of the other female characters does a move where she pats her butt twice. They changed that. I think on the PC, I think they modded it where they brought that back in there, but on the console you can't. I think they changed it to please people who don't play the game. And Mortal Kombat also went pretty woke with this one. Where do I start with that? Yeah.
I mean, I know what you mean by that, but
yeah, SJW. Well, they tried to beat the SJWs to the punch, so they covered up all the characters. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the word doesn't mean... I was thinking about it. The word doesn't mean anything. Woke, to me, doesn't mean that you're aware at all. It means that you're following some set of guidelines as to how to pamper everything. I mean, I think this is pretty clear to you and me, obviously, and a lot of people listening, but it's just... Woke is not woke. Woke
no,
is not
it's
woke.
not. It's just
there
an
are
ironic
people red-pilled that are more woke in the sense of what woke
would be.
I would think of. And I think red pill is also silly, just as silly as woke can be, but I just, idiots.
Same thing with SJWs. It's actual SJWs were the people that marched in the civil rights movement. These idiots here are pretending to be that. They're just outraged mobs. They're just outraged about everything. So this is just ironically, and using that as an insult.
Right. No, I get it.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
So of all games, this is the reason they used. So I was okay with the characters. I played the beta of MK11. I did notice the female character was covered up a lot more than previous games, but I didn't trip off of it. I thought the designs were really good. Then one of the developers came out and said, "Oh, we're going for more realism." And then people called bullshit on it because it was like, well, you got options for the male characters to be damn near naked, but the female characters are fully clothed. Now, why is that? And you have a dude throwing ice out of his hands. How realistic are you talking?
Every movement oversteps the line. You know, they call it hubris. I saw it with rap music when we went into the later 90s and 2000s, where it just got more and more over the top, excessive, and they just didn't even care about like crafting the music at a certain point. It was just how many snaps, how many bass hits, how many new dances can we come up with? And I think the social justice movement obviously is going through that right now. And I think it's just gonna go in a cycle. I don't think this can sustain itself. I think that there are some things that are gonna stay, you know, to our dismay, but I don't see. I don't know. It's stayed around a lot longer than. Well, I didn't have a set time limit for this, you know, but.
Dude, I thought this shit would be over. I thought people would look at this like this. Well, people now are starting to kind of look like, dude. I mean, they're complaining about Rudolph and all this. So I think people are starting to wise up to it, but you still got companies that keep bowing down to this shit. So NetherRealm, you know, the makers of Mortal Kombat, again, they were talking about being more realistic and more mature. So there's nothing in your game that's more mature or realistic. You can kill people. That's the thing I keep wondering about between sex and violence. Why is in this country if you see the fatalities in this game, it's way more gruesome, especially with the technology where the characters can look more realistic. It's some fatalities I don't even want to look at. They're that gruesome. But they're worried about you can kill people as long as you're covered up. You can kill people as long as you're dressed properly. Like that don't make sense to me. They're more detailed with the inside, like You can show like just the way you kill people is just real gruesome. Nobody complained about that, and I don't mind. I mean, I play fighting video games, but I'm just comparing. Well, how is that worse than nudity? Nudity isn't violent, but we're it's like the left have become the new Puritans. Anything that show female skin, they freak out about it. I don't understand that. But you can show people's insides getting torn out of them. That's weird to me.
I don't want to get into the weeds too much about this, but
I don't either. But
no, about the left thing or the right thing. I mean, it's a little bit more. Obviously, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Those are the authoritarian left. Those people.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a completely different side of the left that's not about censorship or, this crazy puritanical kind of wave that we've been seeing lately. But yeah, it's definitely authoritarian left.
And I wouldn't, again, they're infusing this crap into escapism. I'd love not to talk about it, but every time I'm playing a game, there's some political thing they've infused into the game. They even did Jack's ending was, I know some people calling it racist because the story of this game is he's supposed to be able to go back in time and change history or whatever. When they infuse real world politics into his ending, and it just turned me off too, because like, I just want to play a game. I don't want to hear other people's politics and stuff, man. I just want to play a game. And
well, it's like with football. A lot of people that turn to football to get away from politics started to get ticked off when politics got into football with the protesting and whatnot. And of course, people applied their own standards to what was happening, and so they made it political in that way. I mean, what guys like Kaepernick were doing was political, but people also made it political, applied more to it than they could. But anyway, what I'm saying is, yeah, just like football, video games are something that a lot of us turn to get away from things in the real world. And when you start injecting politics into it, ugh.
Yeah, it's like there's nowhere to go. And today Nintendo got rid of I didn't know they had a flag, the transgender flag or something. Nintendo got rid of that because they said, hey, it's too political. So there was a creator stage or something. You can create stages on Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
And Nintendo got rid of that stage or something. I don't know all the details of it. I just heard about it today.
So it was a stage that somebody made and they put a transgender flag into it?
I guess some transgenders made a flag on a stage that they created,
mm-hmm.
and Nintendo got rid of it because it was too political.
Yeah, I can't blame them.
Yeah, so they said, no, we're not doing this. So they got rid of it.
Well, that's just inspiring and makes joy in my heart. How about something a little less politically?
It'd be great if they keep it out the fucking entertainment I enjoy. I wouldn't bring it up.
Oh no, I'm not saying don't talk about it. I was just gonna move to something else. But if you had more to say about it, go ahead.
Kind of my news for it's just I've been noticed. I mean, I said if we have a podcast, we'll bring some of those up. But God, man, I wish we go back to just straight up playing games and not have to worry about this real world stuff. Keep it out of the games, please.
I guess I don't touch on mainstream games as much as you do, so I don't see this stuff as often. I haven't really played much lately, so I was just going to move on to a couple of news stories that I had found. I don't know if you heard this. This is from a week ago. This was announced 1 week ago. SNK making new Neo Geo console and a new Metal Slug game.
A brand new Metal Slug, or is it a remake or something.
I'm pulling the article right now. I believe it's a brand new one. This is on Nintendo Life. SNK is making a new version of its legendary Neo Geo system. It has been revealed. The announcement came from SNK Corporation Chairman, I'm going to butcher this name, Ji Zuhui, who also revealed that a new Metal Slug title is in development for the new console, as well as other systems. The news came during an investor relations press conference in Seoul. While it's not known exactly what form the new Neo Geo system will take or why we're getting two versions, numbered 2 and 3, the chairman revealed that higher-than-expected sales of Neo Geo Mini had convinced the company to create more hardware. However, he was quick to add that these new consoles are unrelated to the Neo Geo Mini, a standalone mini arcade cabinet preloaded with games that plugs into your TV via HDMI. The new Metal Slug game, on the other hand, isn't related to the upcoming mobile title, currently in development at Tencent. The last mainline installment in the series was Metal Slug 7, which launched on the DS in 2008 and was later updated on the PSP in the form of Metal Slug XX. So, yeah. What I want to know is how much the damn thing's going to cost, because you remember back, I think, in 92 when the original came out, it was like $1,000.
And I don't know anyone that had one. I saw the cartridges when I used to go to, was it Game Trader? Little local video game shop. I saw the cartridges, but I don't think I actually saw the system itself. I don't know anyone that had it, but I remember seeing the cartridges, how huge they were.
Yeah, they're about the size of the console.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of strange. I think they're going to have to be more reasonable. I don't know how well the original Neo Geo sold, and I didn't know anyone either that had one. So I don't know if this is going to go very well for him.
Well, the next Xbox and PlayStation 5 are supposed to come out in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not counting on making, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know, I could imagine they're going to be able to rival sales of the main consoles. I don't know what the fan base is like. I don't know if they'll make money off of this or not. I mean, there's still, all the software out there they're making plenty of money off of.
I think I'm assuming they go by their the Japan. They probably think Japan first and think other countries later. Maybe they have a huge fan base in Japan that will buy it up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, for all we know, the sales were probably very different in Japan. So, yeah, they're probably banking on that. So the other thing I had, of course, for I believe the end of last year and all of this year, there have been rumors flying around about a new Nintendo Switch model.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nintendo's president came out, what was it? I believe it was yesterday. This article's from today. This is Tech Times. The president announced that there will be no new Switch model announcement at E3. Now, all right, I'll get you the details here. There will be no new Switch model to be announced at the company's upcoming E3, despite what rumors suggest. Previous reports claim Nintendo is set to unveil a smaller and cheaper Switch variant, and according to rumors, it'll apparently make the announcement at E3, gaming's biggest event of the year. However, Nintendo itself has confirmed that this isn't so. President Shuntaro Furukawa told investors that we have no plans, quote, we have no plans, unquote, to announce a new model at E3 2019, implying that Nintendo is sticking with the current Switch for the foreseeable future. That said, Furukawa assured reporters that Nintendo is always working on new hardware, adding that the company, quote, will announce it when we are able to sell it, unquote. While there might be no new Switch model at E3, this perhaps is sufficient confirmation that there is indeed a new model in the works. He also claims that a lower price tag is due in June, a lower price tag for the Switch. Or, I'm sorry. He failed to address that. So, and you know how a politician will say, "Oh, I don't plan to run for president" before it's the midterms, even though they do end up running for president?
Yeah.
Just to make sure that they get re-voted into their seat. I mean, I think that... Oh, look at me. I'm bringing politics into it. Anyway, no. I think that Nintendo could still turn around and say, fuck you. Here's something about the Switch at E3. I mean, this has happened before with other companies.
Yeah, that's why I didn't buy a 3DS the first time it came out. I was like, they're going to make a new version.
Right. Isn't that what happened? They said, okay, no new console, but then they did announce a new one because people were afraid that they weren't going to buy it if they just said right out, oh no, we're going to discontinue it.
Mm-hmm.
And they never really say it, it just happens. Now, if Nintendo had two consoles that they were, betting on right now, I think it would seem more likely that they would go and say something about it. But, well, maybe they are because, I still think that Nintendo's done with the 3DS, and the Switch is just going to replace that. So if they were to say, oh, well, no new announcement about a smaller 3DS, then or if they said, yes, there will be an announcement, then their Game Boy sales would dip. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Do you think they're... I mean, we heard rumors that there was going to be like an updated Switch that people were going to have to buy where the games were going to be, newer games would not be backwards compatible with the first Switch, which I think would be just retarded. But I don't know. What do you think?
Wait, which part? The
about no new Switch announcement. Do you think there will be something? What do you think about that?
That's Nintendo, man.
Yeah.
I would be curious to know if they mention... I'm more curious to know if they mention anything about the 3DS.
Well, the big horse they're betting on is Sword and Shield.
Yeah. But just to see if they even announce one or two games for the 3DS. If not, at least announce something that if they're going to discontinue it in a few months or a few years, or they're going to do anything with it. I'm a little bit more curious about that. When it comes to Switch stuff, I don't know. Kind of just wait for the game to come to the system.
Hold on, your audio is kind of choppy.
Was it? Is it?
It's cutting out again.
Oh shoot!
Hold now you're back. Now you're back.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. It was just a signal problem.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that's all I have right now for news.
We'll watch on the... Oh, God.
Huh?
Level 5 have released the opening cinematic for the upcoming action RPG Yokai Watch 4 on the Switch. So okay. Yokai Watch 4 will launch for the Switch on June 6th in Japan. Well, that's not going to the 3DS, so that kind of tells me a little bit of something. Plus, I've been wanting that game to be on the Switch. But
it's another nail in the coffin for the 3DS, if you ask me.
Yeah. And Level 5 start doing games for that. I'm gonna see what games are available for my kid to play. Any remaining stuff, so she can have quite a nice library of stuff before they announce anything crazy.
A world without Game Boys.
Well, that's the thing about these companies that kind of fight. What's the word I'm looking for? They seem to fight against their own themselves. You know, you had the Switch come out. That's a hybrid. It can be used as a handheld. Plus, they're competing with themselves. It seems like they're competing with themselves. I remember Sony doing this when they were charging like $600, I think, dollars for the PS3, but like the PS2 was still outselling the PS3 at the time it launched or something. And it was a time period that Sony was competing against itself. It's like they were not discontinuing the PS2, but the PS3 cost so much, people would just continue to buy the PS2, something like that. And then you have Nintendo doing this, the handheld market. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a smart move.
But I'm trying to. This is weird that companies do that sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think it's a smart move for Nintendo, and I think they've been planning on. I think they've been planning on this for a while. When they had the remake of the original Pokemon, you know, like I said, they were trying to get the Game Boy audience onto the Switch, and now they're releasing a mainstream Pokemon entry on the Switch. I think that's a clear sign that they're transitioning. They're trying to get everybody onto the Switch, the handheld market onto the Switch. That way they don't have to put the money into developing new 3DS consoles or whatever Game Boy, you know, version would have come next. Or who knows, maybe they'll come out with a new Game Boy. I don't think so. I think that they're just trying to stream all of their customers, their base, onto one console. And that'll increase the sales. I mean, the Switch just passed the number of sales of the Nintendo 64 recently, which is monumental. Wasn't the 64 their highest selling console to date?
No, I thought it was the Wii.
Oh shit, you're right.
Wii was like 101 million, something like that. And the 64 in this lifespan, I think, was 84 million.
Well, the Switch just passed that, apparently.
Wait, it passed.
The total sales of 64 consoles.
Really?
Yeah, the Switch has now moved more consoles than the 64.
Are they talking about a specific time period, or Nintendo Switch has now also? It says it. Huh. Well, then what the hell did the...
It says lifetime Switch sales have surpassed that of the 64s, which took the 64, the latter system, 6 years to achieve. And the Switch is only 2 years old.
Wow. I was confusing it. I was confusing that with the... what the hell? Was that confused with Super Nintendo? Wow. So they did beat the... So 32.93 million Nintendo 64s. Yeah, they did. And it's only been released in 96. Discontinued in 2002. Okay. Well, damn. Congratulations to Nintendo. It's pretty,
They're on a roll. They've been on a roll now for 2 years.
It's only been 2 years? I don't know why it seemed like it was longer than that.
I think it's a little over 2 years, because when did the console launch? Wasn't it March of 2017?
I thought it was 2016. I got mine Christmas of was it 2017?
It says here the Switch was released in the U.S. March 3rd, 2017.
Oh, it was 2017. Oh, I'm tripping. And it's 2019 now. Okay. Man, I don't even, it's feel like these years go so fast. Yeah, if I wonder what their next, or they're gonna make a more powerful Nintendo Switch during the next console run. Keep the whole hybrid thing going. I would like that. That way, I won't have to get a handheld system. Everything would be on the Switch.
I really think that's the way it's going. I think that's the direction they're going in.
Cool.
Yeah. So, you got anything else for news? Any other thoughts?
Other than stuff I mentioned earlier, was all that was kind of news related. I wanted to go actually have details about that. Other than that, another goofy thing they did in Mortal Kombat was change the OK sign for Johnny Cage.
Oh no!
Yeah, then they went with the worst finger. He gives you the middle finger instead of the OK sign. So apparently now, they changed.
So the middle finger is less offensive than the OK hand gesture?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With I know you don't want to get.
No, go
but
ahead.
I can't help it. This was shit that keeps going into our games. They keep giving us worse things. Like I said, the blood and violence is more intense, but they covered up the women. And the men you can customize the men to be damn near wear a loincloth. They're showing nipples and everything, but you can't do the women that way. And then, yeah, they go to another. Eddie Murphy gave the OK symbol in Beverly Hills Cop. Does that make him a Nazi too?
Well, you know the recent story about the OK symbol controversy.
No, I got it. Yeah, I know that, but why do we give these people power? And just like, look, it means okay. Why are we giving these small minority of people that's using it for this other thing and not taking it back to what we've been using it for years?
Well, for those listening that don't know, so the OK hand gesture, now people are associating it with a symbol of white power. But the ironic part is that it was actually started by some anonymous people on 4chan to try and make it associated with white power, just to troll. And it worked.
Then it worked. Fucking idiots, man.
And like I was saying, man, when we were talking a while ago, the OK hand gesture, we used to do that as a game in high school where if we got people to look at our hands below the waist doing that, then we got to sock them in the arm.
And
I remember Tim Pool brought that up, I think, when they were talking about that on Joe Rogan. Or no, it was Rogan's lackey. Jesse, I think the guy's name is. He was talking about it.
Oh, okay. I think in the esports they were doing that to signal to the other team that I forgot how they doing it, why they did it in esports, and that was the whole point. One of the guys did it. There was a video of one of the winning team winning, and the guy behind him, I think a couple did the OK sign, and the guy went on Twitter and apologized for it. I didn't know that's what it meant. Like, oh my God,
he didn't.
Dude.
And so by him doing it means that he wasn't intending to signal white power.
But this outright, they don't care. That's the problem. Don't apologize to SJWs because they will. It don't work. It doesn't matter.
Well, my favorite refute when somebody claims that it's a racist symbol, I show them a picture of Obama giving the OK hand gesture.
Yeah, that's why I just said, like, Eddie Murphy. I mean, it's 1980 something, but what about? Are they going to retcon that movie and remove that?
Oh, I hear people talking about it sometimes. I don't know if you remember, this was a while ago. Crack put out an article a few years ago about 5 movies that are now racist or bigoted.
But I mean, what are they going to call Eddie Murphy a Nazi? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're another person, if you're not a white person, and you do the OK, like, what does? Are you a Mexican Nazi? Or you Asian Nazi?
I
Like
don't.
what?
I don't even know, man.
How
Because
far are they gonna go with this?
Nazis lost any meaning.
Yeah, and I don't know why they. It's just a. Mm. So somebody asked one of the developers in Mortal Kombat, "Why did you change the Johnny Cage's hand gesture?" They said, and he just replied, "Nazi."
Wow. You can tell that
I do
guy's doing
not.
some critical thinking.
Yeah, I recommend nobody buy MK11. It's and then you had a couple of the one of the developers call people who disagreed or had an opinion about one of the endings to the game. He said, "Oh, they're not fans," and they came back with, "I've been a fan of this series since I was in college," and blah blah blah. So you're catering to 8% of the population over this mess. Of all things, one of the few companies that kind of rebelled against everything, now they're rebelling in a weird direction, telling people they're not fans if they don't like parts of the game. And they got some weird microtransaction stuff going on with it too.
Mm.
So this is probably one of the best MK games I've played. Unfortunately, it's a trend now where companies shit on the fans, and shit on the people that buy their product. So I refuse to. I had already pre-ordered it, unfortunately, but that's the shit that's been in the news. It's you try to have fun. People just want to create games, and you got people want to censor everything, and they don't even buy or play these games. They just you got to be activists for something. That's extremely annoying. And then it's more annoying that the companies keep fucking doing what they want.
Yeah, that's the one thing that gets me. It's when the companies or the celebrities apologize or they give in.
Well, also in the news, Sony is planning on censoring sexually explicit games, which there aren't hardly any, but okay. And Nintendo seems to be the ones not censoring games. You're talking about Bizarro World.
Right. I mean, I think you're going to say the same thing. I'm going to say 20 years ago it was the opposite.
Yeah.
20 years ago, Nintendo was taking crosses off religious references, anything risque, and Sony, they were like the dangerous guys. Or Sega, they were the first ones that were the edgy ones, the edgelords. Then Sony came out and they were like, yeah, no bullshit. We're not going to dress anything up. We're going to, we're going to give you gritty, the real, the cool stuff.
Now Nintendo's are the one not censoring stuff.
Yeah, Nintendo's zero fucks given.
And now Sony is the ones. Somebody did a meme where they had anime chicks with big tits, and Sony was like, "No, we can't have that." But then they had at the bottom Sony approving 2 teenage girls kissing. And the Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, I remember that trailer.
Yeah. So they're okay with that, but they're not okay with grown adult boobies. This is right is wrong and wrong is right. I don't get the current climate in society right now. It's weird. Other than that, Days Gone came out, I think today. New zombie. Open world. I didn't know it was open world. Hope to get a chance to play that sometime soon.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer for that one. That one looks fun.
I'm not sure when Mario Maker 2 release. I know it's sometime this year or soon, pretty soon, I guess.
Well, yeah, they can. People can go and find the release dates for all those. We know they're coming out this year. We know Mario Maker 2 definitely. One thing that I thought of, and I think this obviously crosses over with a lot of people that are in the gaming audience. And this came out last night, of course, but Endgame comes out this weekend, or if you're listening when this comes out, it's been out. Avengers Endgame. I'm going to go this weekend if I got the time. What's up?
I said I think it released in other countries like Tuesday. I mean, I remember hearing people say they got sneak peeks. I don't know if it was in America or not. I know Thursday or yesterday, I think it was worldwide release, but I think in certain countries they had it. I know people were reviewing it before Thursday, so I think in other countries they released it, if I'm not mistaken. I still haven't seen. I think Avengers 2 was the last movie I saw at the theaters.
Yeah, I completely skipped over Infinity Wars, and I actually just watched it last week. It's really good.
Yeah, I hear it is.
I've liked all the Avengers movies. I've been more picky with the character, the specific character-based Marvel movies, but Avengers hasn't let me down yet.
Did you like Age of Ultron?
Yeah. I like the first Avengers more. I thought Age of Ultron was very good, not quite as good. Endgame, I don't know about Endgame yet, but Infinity Wars, I actually like more. I actually like that the most of the three.
How did you like Civil War?
Couldn't get into it.
Huh. From again, I stopped going to the movies. I think Winter Soldier was the last one I saw in terms of Marvel movies. So after that, I haven't really cared for them. I haven't seen Black Panther.
I was expecting more action. I mean, that's really the backbone of these movies, if you ask me. I mean, sure, you can have plot, but there was too much dialogue, too much plot in that one. Not that I'm against those things, but I just wasn't into it in Civil War.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen this. I probably won't see it.
Yeah, depending on how crazy the crowds are, I'm going to try and get out tomorrow.
Oh, this movie might make $3 billion.
The new Avengers?
This Endgame gonna make a ton of shit money.
Oh, dude,
man.
It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if it's the highest grossing in history. But that just seems to keep happening.
The pre-sales of it was, I think they said they were sold out in like 3 to 6 hours.
Surprised it took them that long.
The pre-sales of them. Don't quote me on that. I do remember it was pretty fast. It was fast.
Oh yeah, it's Endgame. I mean, I know I keep saying it like it's obvious, like everybody should know. Yeah, this is Endgame. But really, everybody does. You know, I don't have to go over the details of what it's about, who's in it. And if you're listening, you don't know. Tilt that rock up a little bit and come outside.
Well, you tell me how it is when you go check it out.
Will do.
No plans on saying it. If it comes out on DVD, maybe. But my enthusiasm for movies has been lacking. There's nothing I've been crazy about seeing. I want to see the new Godzilla movie, but I doubt if I even go to theaters to see that. I may catch that on DVD.
Yeah, you can always catch it later. I mean, this will be the first movie, if I do end up going, because I've told myself, okay, you're going to go see this movie, and then I didn't. But if I do go, this will be the first movie I've gone to theaters to see in, well, probably about 5 or 6 or so months, but that last movie I wouldn't have gone to if it hadn't been for somebody else and a couple others. But the last movie I really went to go see of my own volition was like a year and a half ago, probably longer.
Was that oh crap, don't tell me. It's based on a book.
Well, it wasn't based on a book.
Oh, you saw one at that.
The one I'm thinking of.
Oh, okay.
I saw The Last Jedi.
Oh, the one before that. Wasn't it damn it.
Dark Tower?
No, well damn. I didn't know you saw that.
Yeah, that was a real disappointment to me.
The damn
Ready Player One?
Yeah, Jesus. I know, I'm like, it's a one in the title. I can't think of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got an early screening because of the college newspaper, and as a video game fan, I thought it was shallow, but for a casual viewer, it was pretty good.
Oh, okay.
The visuals were impressive. It was just there was no. Again, I haven't watched it since it came out, but there just wasn't really, to me, any substance. It was a very cliched story, guys trying to be the best and take down an evil corporation. Then a guy meets a girl, and they fall in love, and that's pretty much it.
I wonder how much different it is from the book. Well, all movies are, but
that I don't know because I haven't read it.
I have it here. It came with one. I need to read it, but it came with my. I used to get the mystery boxes. I think Loot Crate or one or the other. The one I used to get. I can't think of the other one I used to get. Had a book. Had that book in there, so I was like, huh. So when I heard the movie about it, I was like, oh yeah, I got that book and I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, well, let me know how the book is if you end up reading it.
Yeah. I still got to finish Interview with a Vampire.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's way down on my list.
I was reading it. I tell you how, the last time I read it, I was in high school. Like, I got to the middle of it, and I don't know what happened, why I didn't finish it. Could have been the Super Nintendo. Something stopped me from reading it.
It's these damn video games. They're rotting our kids' brains.
Yeah. Right at mine.
Well, anything else for news then? That's all I've got.
That's all I got.
All right, so we're going to talk about Capcom. If you had to summarize Capcom and its history and all the games that it's created, and they do more than games. They started out as a completely different company, but we're really focusing on the games. But just in terms of the games in Capcom, if you could sum it all into one word, could you think of a word?
I don't know if it's a word, but
or a statement.
I say the company that knows how to reinvent itself.
Yeah. It's funny when I think of different franchises from Capcom, sometimes I forget that it's the same company. Really, I don't know many gaming companies besides obviously like Nintendo's first party development team that have been able to make so many different types of games, and each different type, not all types obviously, but so many successful franchises that are so different from each other.
Dude, from Street Fighter, Mega Man, Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Monster Hunter,
Final Fight,
Breath of Fire.
Yep.
They just
Ghosts and Goblins, Beautiful Joe. They even made a few Zelda games.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they were good too.
They were partnered with another development company, but they did have a part in it. I never played the Minish Cap, which was one that they made. Did you play that one?
Is that with the 4 links?
No, that's 4 Swords.
4 Swords.
Either that or Triforce Warriors, that one that came out a couple of years ago.
What the hell? Okay, I got a Minish Cap.
Minish Cap's where you can shrink.
I probably didn't.
Well, we both played the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think other than Seasons and what's the other one?
Ages.
Ages. Me getting into the handheld. I really hated the 3DS Zelda games because of you had to use the stylus to make Link move. The game wasn't bad. It's just the mechanics of it was like I can't see my screen because I got the stylus. I don't know why they picked that option. I don't think there's another way to play it. If I'm not mistaken, we'll check it out again and see if you can play it without the stylus. But I don't remember you being able to. Ouch. Play a damn game without moving Link on the second screen with the stylus and not with the cross pad or anything.
Well, they had that same thing with Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah.
Which was another one I never got into. Like you said, the games didn't seem so bad, but yeah, that mechanic really turned me off. So, what was the first Capcom franchise you can remember getting into?
Mega Man.
Yeah. Yeah, Mega Man, I was familiar with. I didn't really get into Mega Man until I was a little older, but I always knew of Mega Man. And Street Fighter was always a part of my life, too.
I want to say...
or Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, what was the... When I first got an NES, I think the first game I did buy was Mega Man. Not because I knew of these companies kind of until I got like EGM and I read more in detail with Konami and all these other companies. But when I would buy a game, I would just look at the box art. I know Mega Man had a shitty box art, but it was a blue dude shooting shit. So I was like, oh yeah, and it looked platforming. It looked like a platformer too, and I was into platforms real heavy. So well, still am. Any good ones out. I think they did 1941.
Yep.
I can swear I played that at the arcade, but I didn't pay much attention to who made games back then that much. But yeah, I would say one of the first games I ever owned that was a Capcom game has to be Mega Man.
I remember talking about Mega Man reminded me of this. I remember hearing about this in a magazine a long time ago, and I don't see anything here that proves that it was inspired by Mega Man, but there is a professional Canadian football team in Winnipeg, Manitoba called the Blue Bombers. So I just wonder if they were actually... let's see, when did the team start? No, it's just ironic. The team's been around since 1935.
Okay. And they got their name from Capsule and Capsule Computers. Capcom is a clipped compound of Capsule Computers, a term coined by the company to describe the arcade machines it solely manufactured in the early years, designed to set themselves apart from personal computers that were becoming widespread at the time. Was it 1989?
It says here they were established in 1979. Their predecessor was IRM Corporation, and then there was some different branching offs and reacquisitions. IRM was the original company. It's subsidiary Japanese Capsule Computers Company. And they started manufacturing and distributing electronic game machines. They underwent a name change to Sambico in 1981, while Capcom Company Limited was first established June 11th, 1983 by Kenzo Sugimoto. So one of my early favorites by Capcom was, we've talked about this game before, the Magical Quest.
Yeah.
There are a lot of similar mechanics between that and Ghosts and Goblins, the Super Nintendo version. Did you ever notice that? Just the appearance of the levels, the way that the motion controls were set up. Obviously, the Magical Quest was much easier, but I wonder if they used the same engine for both games. It wouldn't surprise me.
Did they do that back in 8-bit and 16-bit days? Use the same engine? I noticed,
Yes.
I noticed way more now that games use the same engine. Like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7 definitely use the same engine. Resident Evil 4, and I think some of the remakes. But back then, yeah, I guess they would have. I guess they would have. I guess I never noticed it back then.
I know that the system used for the original Earthbound on the Nintendo, on the NES, or we call it Earthbound Zero or Mother in Japan, that same system was used in Pokemon Red and Blue. Which were both 8-bit consoles. And I know that there are other examples out there. Not the Mario games, not the Zelda games. Let me see here. Well, I'm not sure, but if we were to go through all the NES games, I'm sure we would find overlapping. So, Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first Mega Man you played? Was it the original?
Oh, shit. When did he start sliding?
I think that was in 2 or 3.
I think I got, so it must have been one. I think I had the first one because he couldn't slide. I don't think he could. Yeah, I think it might have been the first one. The very first game I think I had was Mega Man 1. I was trying to get them in order. I remember I think I got the one he couldn't slide, and then the other games he was able to. So I want to say, yeah, I think the first one was the very first one I had.
Mega Man was also one of the first game series to have like a real rock style soundtrack. One of the first popular ones. That was back during the era where a lot of games were trying to emulate like an 80s metal kind of style. I knew a drummer actually in a nationally touring band, and on his free time when he wasn't touring or working with the band, he had a side project where he would play drums. He would write drum parts to Mega Man tracks. He would play them right off the soundtrack and come up with drum parts. Like, it's so lively. It's so awesome. You remember the opening stage theme for Mega Man 7 on the Super Nintendo?
Yeah, I think so.
That's one of the coolest SNES themes. I was just listening to it the other day. And when they finally upgraded to 16-bit, they just opened the door for a lot more in terms of what they could do with the music. But yeah, the games really evolved over time. I remember some of the most, still talking about music, Dr. Wily's Lair in Mega Man 2, that's one of the most popular gaming tracks for, like, old NES music heads out there. But yeah, the games just really like smooth things out over time. I think it was the 3rd or the 4th one where you finally brought your dog along with you, and he could transform into different things. So then around that same era, of course, Street Fighter 2 in the early 90s became a huge hit. A lot of people forget there was a Street Fighter 1, but it wasn't nearly as good as Street Fighter 2, of course.
And they were just so innovative because, I mean, when you play Karate Champ and Ring King, even the like beat 'em up games with just the control scheme with Street Fighter to have it go. I mean, the movement to throw a fireball and actually do combos and stuff was Street Fighter 2 was crazy. I mean, looking back at how fighting games have evolved now, but to put a lot of those mechanics in, again, I don't think there were many fighting games, maybe beat 'em ups, but even then, just some of the controls, you know, the way you will move a character and everything. I mean, the special moves for the characters, and the people coming up with combos and stuff was. Man, I remember how that game blew up when it came out. And I didn't like it at first because my friend introduced me to it. I thought it was I had played Double Dragon so much that when I got to when I saw Street Fighter, he brought it over. We played it. I was like, I don't know about this, man. I was just into Final Fight and all that stuff, which was another Capcom game. Well, I didn't hear about Final Fight until I think after Street Fighter, but side-scrolling games like Double Dragon, Bad Dudes, River City, Ransom, and then playing a fighting game where you're just on a single stage and you go to the next stage after you was so foreign to me. I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. And then when one of the Raul and Ken does the hurricane kick was the same kick move, except it didn't travel across the screen, but it was something you could do in Double Dragon. It was one of the reasons why I ended up liking Street Fighter, because of that one move made me get into the game, and then been a fighting game fanatic ever since because of one move in the game that looked similar to the one in Double Dragon. And then they had so many. I remember they became what we don't call them a meme back then, but back then it was when are they going to get to 3? Because they kept redoing Street Fighter 2.
Oh my God. Yeah, there were so many. I just gave up on there ever being a new one.
And by the time it came out with 3, it was, I mean, they even went back to Alpha, and I think Alpha came out before 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Everything came out before 3. I don't even know. I'd have to look up a number of how many reiterations of Street Fighter 2 there were.
And I remember around that time, I think when Super Street Fighter came out, I think they were kind of losing it. People were like kind of getting fed up with them in a way. And then I remember reading EGM how they were losing money, or is Capcom going to close down and Capcom's in trouble. And then they come out with
going to go the way of Konami.
Yeah. Then they came out with Resident Evil. That's why I say they're the company that keeps reinventing themselves, because they got a track record of rehashing the same type of game and somehow remain successful. They, well, that's not broke. We're not going to fix it. Let's just keep adding on to what we already have.
It's kind of like a lot of sports games where they just make a new edition every year.
Yeah. Street Fighter, I think all they would do is either make it faster or add 4 more characters.
Right, they did add like the elite characters eventually. They didn't have those in the, they were just bosses in the first version, right?
Yeah, then they had I don't know if it came out first on Genesis or Nintendo had it first, but it was what did they call it? Well, anyway, you were able to play the boss characters. For some reason, I keep thinking Sega got it first, and then Nintendo. But I could be wrong. I think by the time Super Champions Edition, I think that was what it was called. Or it had a different name from Super Street Fighter. And I know they had some extra features that the Genesis, if I'm not mistaken, had that Nintendo's didn't.
Something I recently learned about Street Fighter 2, the original. Now, I had known that Balrog and Bison's name were switched in the North American release. I didn't realize also that, I could be a little off on this, but the stage themes, the music, were switched for the two characters as well. I always liked Bison's theme, but I don't know, it just always felt a little off to me. Like, it was a good final stage theme, or at least what you thought was the final stage. But it did seem like a little, I don't know. Do you remember, I'm going a little off topic here, but do you remember the final stage in Sonic 3?
No.
Okay, well, the music just didn't seem right for a final level.
No.
And also composed by Michael Jackson, as a lot of people think, but he took his name out of the credits. But, yeah, as for Street Fighter, I never played the ones past 2.
Like the 2 without the turbo?
Well, no, I played Turbo and Champions and all that. I mean, I never played 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. I mean, it took them a long time to get to 3. I think, was it? Because when PlayStation initially, I said the first 2 years, PlayStation came out, they came out with Street Fighter Alpha. And then they had a sequel to that one. Still didn't get a 3. But we did get a kind of a new game with new characters and everything with Street Fighter Alpha, where they're supposed to be the younger versions of themselves. And then 3 came out with... Yeah, some of the core characters were gone. They introduced these new characters. I think Raul and Ken was still there, but Guile, a lot of the other ones were not there.
Seems weird to me. Again, I haven't played the games, but it just seems weird that they would take out some of the characters. The only character, in my opinion, that I could mind seeing a new version without would be, what's his name? The Russian.
Zangief.
Zangief, that was it. I was like, it was Eve something.
I could never play with him properly because he was a grappler, and I know some people that are really good with him. I'm like, I'm not throwing a fireball, or just that wasn't my fighting style. But I know some people that are really good with him.
In fighting games, I've never really been a fan of the heavyweights.
So by the time 3 came out, Raul and Ken were still the original. I think when they wanted to do 3, I guess they didn't want to. It's like, it's going to be like 2. So if you didn't make any changes, they had another Rival Schools. Rival Schools in the sequel. I'm trying to think of the sequel to that. It came out on Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm.
Those were fun. They went to some other fighting game franchises. They did the Capcom versus Marvel versus Capcom.
Power Stone,
Star Gladiator. Yeah, I think I had Star. Yeah, I had that. It was it's like a 3D fighter.
Let's not forget all the Versus games. Probably one of the most popular entries that Capcom's made. Marvel versus Capcom, SNK versus Capcom.
Do you remember a game called I don't think, was it Lost Planet? It was a game. It was a Capcom game. I can't forget Strider. I love Strider games. Monster Hunter, Dark Commando, Buster Brothers. I didn't know they did
Bionic Commando.
Yeah. I didn't know they did Buster Brothers.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. You don't realize Capcom's done all of these different things. They're so diverse.
Adventure Quest. Oh, 1942, not 1941. I meant 1942. Dark.
Well,
I do remember Darkstalkers.
well, they did both 42, 40, 41, 42, and
Oh, they
43.
did. Okay. Okay.
43, The Battle Midway, 1944, The Loot Master, and 19XX, The War Against Destiny.
Beautiful Joe is like my shit. I love Beautiful Joe. Surprised
Yeah.
to come out with a new version of that game. Rival Schools. What the hell was the sequel to it? I got that game. I can't think of the name of it right now. But that was fun. That was a pretty good fighting game. Lost Planet. Only the first one was good. I didn't care for the second. Lost Planet. Akami. Anamusha.
Tell me, are you familiar with a franchise called Biohazard?
I don't know. Let me think. Gee golly.
This was a franchise they came out with later. I think it went by a different name.
Name for the Resident Evil?
No, I don't think it was Resident Evil. It was some kind of horror game. I think you were locked in a house, though, but it was no way it was Resident Evil. They had the first one I see here is Biohazard Code Veronica. It's odd.
Some damn biohazards.
I'm gonna have to try and figure out what that game was. I can't think of it, man. Scratching my head.
It's crazy how do they? I was wonder how a company. I don't know if they even know it. Most of the stuff done by accident. How they know to come up with the appropriate name that becomes iconic. Because I guess it'd be the same game. I wonder if Biohazard in America would still have that. I don't know.
The same selling impact? The same
it has a ring to it. Resident Evil has a ring to it. Although Biohazard, when you think of it, makes more sense because of the story of Umbrella and all that stuff. But
well, let's see what our friends at Kotaku has to say about this. That was the first result that came up. Most of you are probably aware that in Japan the Resident Evil series is known as Biohazard, and if you're like me, most of you probably never stopped to wonder why. Well, actually, we did. Turns out that this whole time there was a reason. If you already know this, great, but if not, Capcom's Chris Kramer explains, quote, in late 1994... No, Kotaku, I don't want your ads. In late 1994, Capcom Entertainment in the U.S. was starting to ramp up marketing plans for the game that would eventually become known as Resident Evil in the U.S. Capcom Japan had let us know that the name of the game was going to be Biohazard in Japan, but I pointed out to the person who ran marketing at the time that it would be next to impossible for Capcom to register the name in the U.S. As an example, I pointed out that a crappy DOS-based game had just come out in the U.S. called Biohazard. Okay, so it was a copyright issue. Not to mention the New York hardcore band. Now, I remember this. There was a New York hardcore band called Biohazard, and we'd never be able to secure the mark. As a result, the head of marketing held a company-wide contest to come up with a new name for the game. The winner of that competition was Resident Evil, obviously, being a pun on the fact that the game was set in a mansion. That's funny, considering where the game went after the first title.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, there's your reason.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like how, yeah, it made, like the title of it makes sense because of the first game, but then if you go through the other games, you're not really in a residential area, really. But the name has weight to it, so, you can't really change it. And that's the same issue they had with M. Bison and Mike Tyson. That's why they changed it over here, because it sounded too close to Mike Tyson.
Did you see the gaming historian's video on Punch-Out? Speaking of Mike Tyson. You know that guy on YouTube, the gaming historian?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He did one. He did a really detailed episode on the history of Punch-Out. Well, I learned a lot of things I didn't know. Of course, this isn't Capcom related, but it started as an arcade machine. Nintendo tested in the markets, and it did well. So then they did a game. They did a console version, obviously, and they got Mike Tyson, who was on top of the world at the time, to agree to be in the game. But then in later versions, they pulled Tyson because he was getting in a lot of controversial situations.
Yep, it was called Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
But all the later installments were just Punch Out or Super Punch Out.
I had Super Nintendo version of Super Punch Out.
Right.
I think that was the last Punch Out game I played. Then Ready to Rumble came out. So I fell in love with that game. That was a cool game back then.
Who did Ready to Rumble? I remember that game. My brother used to play it all the time.
Dude, it was fun because by the time Part 2 came out, they had, I think George Clinton, Bill Clinton was in it, Michael Jackson was in it. As guest characters, was Shaq in it?
Was Clinton playing the sax?
I don't think he was. I can't remember what. He may have, if it was like a victory pose or something. I can't remember. Ready to Rumble was a wild game. First got it on Dreamcast and then the PS2. I think Ready to Rumble 2 I got on PlayStation 2. I think they stopped after that. I think I'm not sure why they haven't.
There's always
Midway.
parts of the story that people don't hear about.
Okay, that was a game made by Midway. Well, Midway don't think it exists anymore, so I guess that's why we don't have another. But usually they give off, sell off the, I think the rights to somebody else.
I had Midway's greatest hits on Super Nintendo back in the day, and I had the first 3 Namco museums on PlayStation. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah. I can't remember which one I can't remember. I had the N. Whatever had Pac-Man or Mappy on it, I think.
Oh, dude, Mappy.
I don't think I actually played that game all the way. I see it all the time, but I never pick it up. I don't think I ever picked it up to actually play through it. It just seemed too generic to me, I guess. I never really gave it a chance.
Do you remember Tower of Jiraga?
Mm-mm.
That was another old Namco arcade title. It was a time-based top-down game. It was kind of like a pseudo RPG. It was kind of like Hide-Light, though, where you just run into the enemy to fight them. And each level you'd go up a different floor on the tower, and you had to fight the enemies and get to the end. It kind of gets repetitive after time. It was just one that stuck out to me because a lot of the other games, I guess it sticks out to me because it had like this like light RPG element at a time when RPGs really weren't that big. Mm-hmm. And obviously it wasn't one of their more, it didn't have the same staying power as something like Rally X or Pac-Man or Dig Dug, but I'd like to do an episode on Namco one day. But as far as Capcom is concerned...
Did you ever play Dino Crisis?
No, but I know that I'm wrong for not playing it.
I don't know. It's Resident Evil with dinosaurs.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Same tank kind of mechanics. But I remember the night I bought that, I played the hell out of the game. I liked it, though. I think Part 2 was kind of... Okay. 3 was ass. I think that came out on the... Well, I remember seeing the demo or played the demo of it on the original Xbox.
Now, I'm probably going to get flack for not knowing this, but was Capcom behind Time Crisis?
I don't think so. The rail shooter?
Yeah.
I thought that was a Sega game.
Oh, you're right. No. Yeah. On Super Nintendo in '94, they made a Bonkers video game. You remember Bonkers?
Yeah. Wait. Bonkers or Bonk? Bonkers.
No, Bonkers, not Bonk. Bonkers, the cartoon cat cop.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's see here. Capcom Arcade. Okay. Capcom Bowling. They had an arcade game called Capcom Bowling in 1988. Classic collections. The Versus games. I don't know how much there can really be said, but those are some of the most popular Capcom affiliated games. To me, they were just basically extensions of Street Fighter, but with a lot more characters.
I know when they did the SNK. Oh my god, that's probably one of my favorite Versus games from them.
Yeah, that was also around the same time where the soundtracks. That was like the middle age of video games, the late 90s, early 2000s, when they were trying all kinds of different crazy stuff.
I think one of their best animated had to be the Capcom versus SNK. No, Street Fighter 3. I don't know why they didn't animate. Whoever animated that game, why they didn't continue to animate it that way in the other games, at least in the 2D sprite games before it went before 4, I would say. But Street Fighter 3 had some of the best animation I've ever seen in a 2D game I can think of even to this day. I mean, it's gotten a lot of games now are very well animated, but as far as fighting games are concerned, I don't know why. I think a close second would probably be the Capcom vs. SNK games, especially the production of those games. Pretty good.
They had a lot of deals with Disney. They had Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers 1 and 2.
Aladdin.
Darkwing Duck.
Didn't they do Goof Troop? There was Goof Troop ever a game. I'm sure they did.
There was a Super Nintendo Goof Troop.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if Capcom made it. I'm going through the list right now. It's in alphabetical. Dino Crisis you mentioned. Yeah, Disney's Aladdin. The Super Nintendo and Game Boy versions, not the Sega Genesis version.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Dokabin. And Dokabin 2, some late 90s arcade titles. Dragon's Dogma. Oh, okay, they did DuckTales. Let's see. DuckTales, Dynasty Wars, Arcade in 89.
I could swear they did Tiny Toons as well. I could be wrong, though.
Everblue. X's. That was in 85. That was some way back stuff. Kind of going through the bottom right now. Let's see here. Forgotten Worlds, Fox Hunt. Oh, Gargoyle's Quest. Or no. There's Gargoyle's Quest, and then there's Demon's Crest.
Oh, dude, that was got to be one of my top 20 or top 10 favorite games of all time. Demon's Crest.
I'm definitely going to check that out. By the way, I got in one form or another, a copy of Pocky and Rocky.
Yes.
But I haven't played it yet.
Same how it is when you get a chance to play it, man.
I will.
I love that game.
See, more Ghosts and Goblins. Giga Wing, God Hand, God of War, the God of War games.
Oh, Cannon Spike was I think I got that on Dreamcast. You played as, oh my god, I can't describe it. Let me look up Cannon Spike. It was a weird game because it was you picked Cammy, I think you picked Mega Man, Charlie, and it was like a sort of a top-down shooter. It was an odd game. It was called Cannon Spike.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It says it was a multi-directional shooter arcade game.
Yeah.
Released in 2000 by Psycho, and later in the same year for the Dreamcast by Capcom. Says it's similar to games like Smash TV and Capcom's Commando, with the primary focus on boss fighting. It was one of the last games released on the Dreamcast in Europe.
Yeah, that was an odd game. I bought it. I remember getting it. I think it was I think I got it on after Thanksgiving. I think it was on sale or something.
Fun little fact, on Game Rankings, the game holds a 69.69 score. So that's all you need to know. Great game by Cannon Spike.
I think they did Spawn on Dreamcast, which was like an arena shooter type thing. Spawn on Dreamcast. Yeah, you went through like. Well, did Capcom do that, or was it Sega?
It looks like they published the Grand Theft Auto 3 through 4, which also includes Vice City and San Andreas. Obviously, Rockstar developed it. Let's see. In Japan. Only in Japan.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was skeptical at first. I thought Capcom, had nothing to do with those games. And yes, by the way, Goof Troop, yes, Capcom, Super Nintendo.
I think the only Disney cartoon I watched during that 90s era was Gargoyles. Goof Troop and all that DuckTales, I could not get into.
Well, yeah, DuckTales had its campy appeal. Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, but then people were a little more. They were a little less excited for things like Goof Troop and Bonkers. But yeah, Gargoyles seems to be one of the last greats that was on the Disney afternoon.
Yeah, it was more my age range. At least it felt, because it was a pretty dark show.
Yeah, I think that was the darkest out of all those shows they had on that block. If I'm not forgetting anything.
No, I kind of remember they had Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, not Gummy Bears. Gummy Bears was 80 something. That's like on Channel 5. NBC had that. Yeah, that whole afternoon was like Disney stuff. Goof Troop. I never got into. Like I said,
Darkwing Duck.
All those. Gargoyles was the only one I cared to watch, like religiously. They even bought the action figures when they came out. I was deep into that show. I just love that show so much.
Well,
yep.
Oh, what's up?
No, I was saying the show used to. We like. They would turn to stone after, I think, the sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
And how they were always after after every episode, conveniently able to get to the top of the building to avoid being smashed.
Right. Somehow they'd always find a way.
Way up there, yeah.
Now, it's funny, when I think of the Gargoyles also, where did that show take place? Was that in... Did they ever say where? I always thought New York.
Yeah, I thought it was New York. It's like everything takes place in New York or Chicago. I want to say it was Chicago, New York. Could have been New York. I could swear they perched on the Empire State Building. I could be wrong, though. I know they had to go to a tall building.
I was just thinking, good thing it's not the Notre Dame Cathedral in France.
I know the pilot or the first episode showed how they were before. I think they got cursed and turned into stone after the
sun.
Yeah, the sunrise. So I think they were cursed in it. But I remember the first episode how they think some of their army was killed off or something, and that particular group got away and somehow got into present day. But it's been so long since I watched that show. I can't remember how that all went down, but I could swear there was a Gargoyles game. Could be wrong. If it did, I probably didn't get it. But
no, I know there was a Gargoyles game because I played it.
Okay, did Capcom do that one?
It was on Genesis. Hold on. $1995, Gargoyles, Sega Genesis. Developed by Disney Software and published by Buena Vista Interactive for the Sega Genesis in 1995. It says the player controls the protagonist Goliath as he seeks to put an end to the Eye of Odin, a corrupted magical talisman which can transform whoever comes to possess it. I never watched Gargoyles too much, but I do remember seeing parts of the show and being pretty impressed.
Yeah, I think I watched every season. I was deep into that show. I loved it so much.
Now, moving away from Disney, strictly Capcom, you played Okami, right?
Yes, never finished it, though.
Have you mentioned Okami yet?
Yeah, I brought that up.
Okay. What about Onimusha?
Played all three. I even have not a remake, but or enhanced or HD version of it on Switch. The first game. It's $20. 2, I think, improved it. In 3 was okay. Wasn't bad, but you had to switch between him and the guy from that movie when Natalie Portman was a kid and her family got jacked up. He was like he would keep a plant in his window. Like, he was like this train killer. The hell is that movie called? Anyway, he was the actor that played the other character you played in the third game.
I don't know.
Natalie Portman movies.
Did you ever play any of the Phoenix Wright games?
Oh, The Professional was the movie I was thinking about. Jesus. What was the game again?
Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney.
No.
Yeah, me neither. But that's another prominent Capcom series.
That game is still, if I'm thinking that's the same game, it's some lawyer game that's, I guess it's real popular in Japan. It still comes out here.
Yeah. It seems like something, if I tried it, I might like it. But yeah, it's, as far as I know, the only attorney game that I can think of. So, once again, Capcom doing something different. Let's see. And yeah, there've been a lot of those. Let's see what else we have. More Phoenix Wright. We talked about Power Stone. Puzzle Fighter.
I have that on Dreamcast. No, I got that on Xbox 360, I think. Damn it, it's gonna kill me. What was the sequel to Rival Schools? I have Pirate Ship. Darkstalker. That's one of the only fighting games I think from them I couldn't get into.
Which one was that?
Dark Stalkers. I think they did a Capcom versus SNK card game, or some card game that was on. Might have been Neo Geo Pocket. I can't remember if Capcom did that or not. That was a fun game. I don't know if I still have that.
Let's talk about Resident Evil again for a minute here.
Okay.
So, as we were saying, Resident Evil, first game, you start out, you're a special force unit in this town investigating this strange outbreak, and you get stuck in this mansion because you're getting chased by a bunch of mutant dogs. And after that, you weren't really in a house anymore after that, but I think the name still works because, like, your resident, wherever you are, is evil. And just, you know, the name Resident Evil has a good ring to it. So 2 and 3 were still like a straight survival horror kind of game, you against everything around you. But then when 4 came out, the series radically changed. It went from a solo survival horror to more of like a, I guess, like mow 'em down kind of survival. I wouldn't even call it horror so much after that point. To me, the games just seemed to be more about just action and intensity. What did you think about that switch when they went to Resident Evil 4?
Oh, I was all about it because this is why, again, I call Capcom the company that reinvents itself. I think between 1 and 3, 2 was the height of Resident Evil games at that time, because 3 was kind of 2 was so good that it was like, how can 3 live up to this? And it just...
3 was Nemesis, right?
Yeah.
Who could just randomly show up and chase you?
Yeah, and I didn't think that was... I remember I still have it. I think I beat it. But it was kind of like, it's not good as 2. I was comparing everything to 2. So, and I think Code Veronica came out on Dreamcast before 4. And then, which was good. And then 4 just, when it came out on GameCube, like, it was like Capcom did, like, it just opened up a whole new, I don't know, it blew me away when it came out. I think Silent Hill, I think the only, competing, I think Silent Hill was the only other survival horror game that was like the secondary game you would play in terms of that genre.
That's the only one I can think of. I didn't know anybody at the time when it came out that had Resident Evil, but I did know people that had Silent Hill. I remember my cousins playing the first Silent Hill, and we were watching them play, and they went into the abandoned school where the legless children would crawl after you.
Yeah.
And my brother, who always acted like he was, tough shit, had to leave the room because he was so freaked out by it.
that part, it never freaked me out, but everybody tells me that part freaks them out.
That didn't really get me either. The thing that really spooked me was the radio signal that you would get whenever there was like trouble nearby.
I mean, yeah, that always spooked me out.
That was a cool element that they had.
Yeah. I think the nurses freaked me out too. Because they would move, I think they would move when you moved. If I'm not mistaken. They had some weird mechanic where you had to be still and they will move as you move. I think in part 1 or Resident Evil, I'm sorry, Silent Hill 2. Anyway, I don't know who has the creepiest. I think Silent Hill beats Resident Evil in terms of like the creepiest creatures.
Well, the first couple of Resident Evils, for me looking back, they were kind of limited by the technology of the time. But as I've said before, I rented the remake of the first one for the GameCube, and that scared the hell out of me. I don't know what else to say. Nice. It's a creepy ass game. Never finished it, but great game.
Yes, part 7, Resident Evil 7, psychologically fucked me real nice.
Oh right, yeah. So 7 going back toward its roots, right?
Yeah. Again, Resident Evil 4 was reinvented itself. Resident Evil was. I didn't mind the more actiony elements of it. I think people kind of got annoyed with that aspect of it by part 6. It was like, this is not even survival horror anymore. It's not even scary anymore. It's just kind of.
It's just a game with zombies called Resident Evil.
Yeah, it's far from, and then that's why they went back to 7, back to its the horror roots, with some hint of actiony parts to it. But yeah, the game scared the hell out of me. I would only play it during the day. And then more and more I played it, less afraid of it I was. But yeah, that game really got at me. It's like, they did a good job scaring the shit out of me. They did it right. They did this. Then the pacing of they didn't rely on jump scares like every damn game I see now. That's a horror game. They rely too much on jump scares and not
dread
or tensity, or making it tense. Or making it, you almost know when the jump scares are coming because they all follow almost the damn same formula. Resident Evil had jump scares, but they knew how to time it, and it was spaced out, and it was well. They knew they did jump scares correctly, if that makes sense.
Well, I think Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as far as jump scares, I'm really fed up with them. I'm always expecting them with everything I watch now, even though a lot of different franchises have moved away from it. I think a lot of that had to do with all the Freddy games just getting pounded on us constantly year after year. But one of the oldest jump scare cliches that I'm so tired of seeing is the medicine cabinet jump scare. You know what I mean? The medicine cabinet jump scare. It's so funny. It's a joke. It's become a joke by this point.
The long-haired little girl is annoying. It's like, how does everybody use this? It's not scary anymore now.
Long hair, no face, pale skin, right?
Like, this is not. Everybody does this. It's not scary anymore.
Well, one also element of eeriness that I've always liked is when you take a very creepy melody and mix it with a very happy melody.
Oh yeah, that's why Freddy, when Nightmare on Elm Street first came out, and when they were advertising that movie, they would have the kids singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for that shit.
That's right. Yeah, 3, 2, or 1, 2, Freddy's gonna get you. 3,
song.
4,
yeah, I could fuck me up. When I was a kid. I'm like, I remember advertising on the radio. I would run and turn the radio down because that just creeped me out. It's like, why are they playing a happy song? Something about that is real eerie. I never liked that.
Well, speaking of kind of drifting off into the concept of horror games, which we could do a whole episode on, but Mario's earlier games, the earlier Mario games, I thought actually captured like tension and dread pretty well, despite the reputation that Mario has now. For instance, the Super Mario World, the ghost houses, and even like the boss themes were pretty intense for their time. Going back to like Mario 3, even Mario 2, the castle music was very unnerving. And in Mario 64, do you remember the haunted house level?
Yeah, but I don't remember the music much.
Well, you don't have to. So, in the basement, there was a merry-go-round. At that level. In the basement, there was a merry-go-round, and you had this very atmospheric, dreadful music, and then you have this very upbeat, carnival type of merry-go-round music playing over the top of it very faintly, and it just created like this very like conflicting, eerie theme. Even for a Mario game, I remember I was, younger when I first played Mario 64, and that level creeped me out with the killer piano, with the, I guess the boos were a little played out even by that point, but my point is that the older Mario games, I thought actually did, like, did a lot of, like, creepy areas pretty well for their time. For a game that's considered to be more lighthearted and mainstream.
The only thing song that creeped me out was the the ice level when you go into that map.
Oh, in Mario 3?
Yeah. Do you remember how that sounded?
No, I'm hearing it in my head right now. Yeah. It's very isolating.
Something about that always, like, I couldn't stop listening. I would sit there and listen to it, but it always creeped me out for some reason.
Yeah, like it's funny. It's such a simple melody.
Yeah, but something about it was, I don't think it was meant to be, but it was something eerie about it for me. It's like one of my favorite.
I hadn't thought about that level in a long time. It was also long as fuck.
Well, yeah.
I think when I was a kid, I probably died game over on that level more times than anything else. Well, what's funny is that level 7 was just as fucking hard. Or wait, do I have... Were there 7 or 8 worlds in Mario 3?
Man.
The last one's the Dark World, and then you have the pipe level before that, then you have the ice level before that.
I always assumed they went with even numbers. I just don't remember.
Let's see. You had Plains Land, you had Desert Land, you had Ocean Land, you had Giant Land, you had Sky Land, you have Ice Land, you have Pipe Land, then you have Dark Land. Okay, so it was 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to that tonight. The ice that, like when you're on a map getting ready to go to a stage, I would just listen to that. And yeah, it was real creepy to me for some reason. But I do enjoy being creeped out sometimes. If it's, when I go, oh man, why did I let that creep me out? But with Resident Evil 7, what creeped me out about that game, there was no music in most of the levels. And you just heard the damn house noises, creaks. You might hear a footstep, or you might hear, it was just silence. And I think the movie, they would right not to put music in it, because I think it would have been too calming, because kind of calms you, but the fact that there was no music in some levels and you just heard the sounds of the house you were walking in, you just heard your own footsteps, you didn't know if something's going to jump out at you, and then nothing would, and then as soon as you let your guard down, something would jump out at you. Or they did such a great job, in my opinion, with the pacing and everything. But especially if you ever play that game in VR, that's probably the best way to play Resident Evil 7.
Oh, yeah.
This is your first experience. I would recommend, if you never played Resident Evil 7, play it in VR first. I was too much of a bitch to do it.
I think a
'Cause
lot of people were.
I'm playing from my TV screen and was still creeped out. So I can't imagine doing that shit. Fuck, man. Not when I first played it. I was like, there's no way in hell I would play this in VR. Are you crazy? Mm-mm.
Well, let's see. What else do we have here? Shantae. Sidearms.
They did that game?
Game Boy Color, 2002.
Oh, okay.
They published it. They didn't develop it.
Oh, okay.
Snow Brothers, Sun, Spawn in the Demon's Hand.
So that was them. That was the Spawn game I was thinking about. That they either did or published one of the two.
All the Street Fighter games. Strider, like you said. Super Street Fighter.
Maximo was pretty good. I remember my cousin played the shit out of that game on.
Oh yeah, that was the later Ghosts and Goblins game, right?
Yeah, played that on PlayStation 2. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that.
They did a Tailspin game, surprise, surprise. The King of Dragons, The Little Mermaid, The Misadventures of Tron Bonne.
I got that game and still haven't beat it yet. I got it because of Mega Man, the 3D Mega Man. It was just weird. It was a weird experience with that game. It was like a third person walk. I don't know how to describe that game. But I can't remember when you get a helmet. Because most of the game when I played it, like because I never beat that one either. Walk around as Mega Man and get through these corridors. At least with the areas I was at, nothing about it felt like Mega Man. To be honest with you, it's like they.
Was it disappointing like Mighty Number 9?
No, I won't say it was that. It was disappointing, but it was kind of. It was hard. I don't know. It was hard for me to stick with it. I think it was the first Mega Man game in 3D like that, and they were. I think it was just trying something new, and it's kind of it's hard to describe. You have to. It's one of the weird games, you have to, especially when you would do a turn. The controls in it was weird too. Then Trombone was the sequel to that game. And they
it's pronounced trombone. Okay, that makes sense. I thought it was trombone, like it was a rhyme.
And she was also in Marvel vs. Capcom. I think. Yeah, I think she was in that game. There's a character you can pick, but Final Fight.
Oh, real quick.
Mm.
Or maybe not. This brings me to Vulgus. Do you know Vulgus?
No.
Right, so near the end of the list, I was trying to think. I thought they made this game. This was Capcom's first game. Released in 1984. It's a top-down shooter. A vertically scrolling top-down shooter where you're basically in a spaceship and you're fighting aliens, basically. Machines. Pretty common. Vulgus comes from the Latin term common people. People of lower layers of society. I remember playing this in one of the Capcom collection games. Pretty fun game. Pretty standard game, but it holds up pretty well. But there have been a lot of other games. I don't even know if they were the first. Well, I think they were, though, because then later on Capcom made 1941 and 1942, etc.
Mm.
I think that this was one of the first, if not the first, top-down scrolling shooter games. So maybe you don't know the name, but maybe you've seen it before. Check it out when you get the time. It's called Vulgus, Vulgus.
Spell that one more time.
V like Victor, Ulgus.
Oh God, no, I never saw this before. I'm trying to remember the game. I rented this game. I think it was from Capcom. It was like it was a co-op game, but it was a shooter, like a space shooter, but it was like two dudes on a jetpack. And it looked so odd. It's like you're not in a spaceship or anything. It's like two dudes on a jetpack shooting, and I can't remember the name of the game. I could swear Capcom did that one though. I wish I remember the name.
Talking about
it.
Dark Void?
It was a...
What system was it on, or was it on the system?
Yeah, it was like on either Super Nintendo or...
Oh, okay, this was later.
Yeah, or the regular Nintendo. Yeah, it just felt so weird. Like you're just floating there with I think you had a jetpack on. It was a side-scrolling space shooter, but there was no spaceship. You were just this dude flying around. It wasn't Commando. And I remember, because it was a Capcom game, I thought it was going to be pretty good, but I ended up, it's like, nah.
Well, the shoot 'em ups are their own genre, obviously, at this point. Let's see. You have Imperium, Thunder Spirits, Biometal, Gradius 3, Darius Twin, Axelay, of course, R-Type 3, Space Megaforce, and UN Squadron. Those are just what came up when I searched for side jetpack scrolling shooters.
Well, Capcom, I think they... Find or Love is a series of video game published by Capcom for the PlayStation Portable and released in Japan exclusively June 29, 2006. It's the dating sim which a player has to take a photo of or participate in mini games with 3 Japanese bikini idols. Damn it, man. What I was looking at the list, and if you slightly put the cursor over it, it'll show a picture, and it'll show this nice titted Japanese chick. I was like, I got to find out what that.
Nice titted. I've never heard that phrase.
Forgotten Worlds. That's the game I was thinking about.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that earlier.
No, I mentioned.
No. You said something that I thought of Out of This World. That's right.
Yeah. Now I was trying to think of the game that was with the floating dudes. Yeah, it was Forgotten Worlds. The game was so odd looking to me. And that came out on Arcade, Sega Genesis. Okay, it was a Sega Genesis. I think I rented it. And Master System, TurboGrafx. The Wii? Maybe it was like a arcade release or some...
Yeah, it was probably like a virtual console re-release.
Yeah, I remember it now. Forgotten Worlds. Oh, I probably did mention Forgotten Worlds. Every time I think Forbidden Planet, the movie. But anyway, back to the big-titted Japanese chick.
Big-titted Capcom.
Big-titted Capcom. You know what's odd about under Japan? Like, they I think they banned, or it's not released there in Japan yet. So they don't censor like the sexual stuff over there like we do over here, but they do censor like over the top violent stuff. Like in Resident Evil 2 remake, when you pull, there's a right in the beginning of the game where you have to help this cop being chased by the zombie. You have to pull him from under this door, but the door slams shut and cut him in half. In the Japanese version, he doesn't get cut in half. It slams on him, but it doesn't show his insides like the American version does. And in Resident Evil 7, when you cut off, spoilers, but it's not really one. When you play with Ethan, or something happens to his hand, and when you see it, and here it's blood, but in Japan it's like ink, like it's all black. It's not.
That's so funny to me because in Japan they'll show like the most violent actions, but they won't show the actual gore. They won't show the aftermath of it. And as you were mentioning, how they censor over in Japan. It reminds me of the story of you know his name, I'm sure. I can't think. The guy that started the whole tentacle thing.
The hentai stuff?
Yeah. Well, in particular, this was the guy that originated the hentacle, or the hentacle. Yeah. They should call it that, hentacle. The tentacle porn anime or mangas. Apparently, from what I understand, if you ever watched Anthony Bourdain's show where he goes to different countries?
Mm-mm.
Good show.
I know, but I think if I have, it's been a while.
Yeah, traveling abroad. I can't think of the exact title, but he does an episode in Japan, and he actually sits down and talks to the guy who originated this stuff. And I believe it was because you can't show penises.
Yeah, well, now, as far as realistic Japanese porn, I do know a lot about, but I don't watch a lot of hentai because it's too, especially if it's tentacle stuff. I'm like,
Well, I'm not into it either, but I thought this was interesting. So the reason that he uses the tentacles is because he couldn't use penises.
Right. They censor, for some reason, they censor the genitals in Japan. But they do like the most outrageous sexual stuff there, but you can't show the genitals while you're doing it. Like
it's just like a different version of America. Some of the rules are a little different. We don't do this. We don't say we're about this, but we really are about this. But underneath the cover, behind the curtains.
Well, it's just like when I was listening to CADcast, when I got my little 15 minutes of fame when I read my tweet on her, but he was saying how he let his son watch, and I'm not judging as a father or anything, it was just how we as a country or over there in the West are so okay with violent material, but then we freak out if somebody shows a nipple or somebody cusses, and I thought, like, isn't this the worst? Like, is it showing the... So anyway,
pasties always amazed me.
Me too. It's like you're showing bringing more attention to that part of the body.
I mean, if you were to show a sole female nipple, just an image of that.
I don't get the...
I couldn't imagine there could be that much of a reaction to most sensible people. But if you show it in the context of the boob, then everybody will recognize, oh, this is porn. But if you show the rest of the boob without the center nipple as if like they have multiple nipples, the nipple, then it's okay.
Weird. So his son was watching him playing Gears of War 3 or 4, I don't know which one it was. But then he said once the character started cursing, he said he sent his son out of the room. I'm like, well, wait a minute. He just saw hours of dead people getting shot up in the worst ways possible, sawed in half, but the cursing threw you off? Like, okay.
Well, let me ask you this now that that's come to my mind about cursing, about children and cursing.
Mm-hmm.
it seems to me, based on my experience and other people I know, obviously a lot of people still don't like cursing in front of their kids. But what's the most negative impact that has besides other people of authority, getting upset about it and saying, "Oh, you can't say that, you're a kid"?
I have no idea. Kids cussing is hilarious to me.
Yeah, because it's that contrast, because they're supposed to be portrayed as innocent, even though they're not. And then when you see like this sweet little kid suddenly say "fuck," people
but
laugh.
That's the thing. You go to school, like you wouldn't do it at home. Well, I remember going to school cussing up a storm.
Oh yeah, the kids all did it because it was, like, ooh, we can do this here.
But I don't know. I've always saw it as just words to me. I never freaked out over any people cursing or anything, even regardless of age. I didn't. But that's just me. But if somebody were to explain to me, it's like even with nudity, like, okay, what's so bad about it? Other than we've been taught to react to it in a certain way.
Right. It just seems to be like this systematic idea that, kids aren't supposed to cuss, even though they know these words. It's okay once they get old enough. But for now, if we hear them say that, oh, shame on them, I really can't think of any negative impact on a child outside of the authorities, the teachers, getting upset about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I always ask, like, where did these words? Wait, who decided what these words were? These particular words were so bad. I remember looking up the origins of a lot of them, and I'm like, that's what they were. Like, faggot is like a bunch of sticks or something.
Yeah, it's a bundle of wood. I don't know how that became what it is, but
yeah, but this is weird. Like now you're telling adults that they can't enjoy the human. Like if you compare it, like I obviously people freak out over the female form, and I don't understand that. Why is that such a? I understand it from a religious standpoint.
Well, that's what I think it is. It's that old leftover Puritan ideal that we have.
But how did he creep into the other side, who used to be not about? They used to be okay with that, but they were okay with abnormal behavior, but not.
Oh, you mean the left getting very censorious about speech?
Yeah, I don't quite understand that. How they flip to that side like that.
Oh, I should say the authoritarian left, but anyway. Yeah, it's funny. It's ironic.
So I never had anybody really explain to me, like, why nudity is evil or bad. I've never had anybody really explain to me why we are very accepting of violence until a school shooting happened. Then we want to blame games for it, but
they always blame the media. They always blame whatever they think is an influence, even though what it really comes down to is you need to raise your damn kids.
Pretty much. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I don't even have any kids that I know of.
I mean, from my experience, me having one, she asks me questions, and I don't try to shelter her about it.
Some of the funniest stories you've told me about your daughter were involving swearing.
Yeah, so I'm like, just don't say it in public. But I don't know. To me, they're just words. She seems to be well adjusted. Well,
the words don't have power unless they're given power, which is what happens when you make them taboo.
Yeah, it makes them want to be that thing even more. It's like when you tell your daughter you don't want her dating a certain type. I've seen this many a times where I've seen it a couple of ways where the parents might like the guy, but the girl won't date him because the parents like him. So they go and date the jerk that the parents don't like. Or they'll say, I don't want you dating certain kind of different races of, outside your race. And that's the first person they go to. That's the person you try to keep them away from. There was this family that I think all they ate was vegetables. They didn't really eat like fast food or anything. As soon as they got grown,
where did they get their protein?
I'm assuming they just didn't eat fast food. I'm assuming they ate like.
You said they only ate vegetables. They ate more than that.
Yeah, I think they ate maybe fish, and I think maybe not food from like restaurants or something.
That's always another thing. I mean, real quick. That's another thing that's amazed me. The Catholics, you don't eat land animals. You're not supposed to eat meat, but fish are okay. I'm not sure if I know the full context of the meaning behind it, but I just thought it was ironic. It's just like the idea that, excuse me, from what I've noticed, as far as when it comes to people hunting animals or hurting animals, the closer they are in resemblance to us, the more queasy we get about it. Have you ever noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like mammals, pigs. I've noticed pigs, like in a couple of Judeo-Christian religions, Judaism and Christianity. Or no, not Christianity. Judaism and Islam, you don't eat pork. But ironically, the pig is, besides the apes, they're a lot similar to us than most other animals. And so it just seems to me like there's probably a tied-in reason to why there's the taboo in those religions against pig. They say they're a filthy animal, but I don't know, man.
Well, I know in the Bible it mentions they list like a list of food or animals that are considered unclean, like shrimp.
Pork, the shellfish.
Yeah, stuff like that. I do know the body doesn't process pork, right? Or something like that.
I'm not sure. From what I'm aware of, I do believe that pork is actually still more beneficial than beef.
I'm not a food. I would have to research that. But I do remember being told or read pork doesn't digest right or doesn't digest at all, something to that degree. But
to all the gym trainers and doctors listening, you guys know the real story.
Well, that's debate between nutritionists and doctors, so...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I've always had a skepticism over doctors.
Yeah, I feel like doctors are more inclined to, like, tell you something that's wrong so they can get paid. And I think they need to do something to get paid. They just have to tell you something's wrong. I mean, I just talked to a coworker of ours that said they went in to get a checkup on something. They were told they had cancer. Then they got a second opinion, found out they didn't. It was a bunch of crazy stuff. But
well, I actually had a similar situation in my family. But yeah, the doctors, the nutritionists and the doctors, they always seem to come out with new conflicting information every so often. And I'm not an expert in that field, but doctors, a lot of them, not all of them obviously, but a lot of them seem to be more focused on treating people instead of actually healing people. And I understand there are some cases that you can't fully heal, but I don't know. Maybe it's a vague notion I have, but it just
No, I
seems
think
like there's more medication to try and ease the pain than attempts to try and actually completely remove the pain or the ailment.
that's why I was kind of been pro. It depends on. I'm really not like entirely sold on people taking narcotics or anything like that. But it's weird that you also have over-the-counter drugs that people get addicted to, and it's like, well, the government, as long as it's okay to take their drugs, but they want to lock you up for these other
smoking a plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that weird. And they have just as weird. You ever see some commercials where they'll take this drug for this particular thing, but the side effects will be kidney failure, heart disease.
Dude, the side effects are terrifying.
Yeah.
But they always have happy scenery going on in the background and positive music. I'm going to change my life and become the person I was always meant to be. No longer will I be under the cruel tyranny of da-da-da-da. But, of course, also side effects include...
Right. There's a whole list of shit like, why would I take this? Look at the side effects. I'm going to have to take a medicine for the side effects.
And that's what happens to a lot of people. A lot of people I know, they're in like this giant... You familiar with the story of the Sword of Damocles?
I heard that phrase, but I don't know.
Well, basically, this is a bastardization of the story, but basically, I believe it was about someone who claimed that they saw the king's job and they thought, oh, that's easy. Or some high-ranking power. And they took on the job, but basically the constant pressure on them was symbolized by this sword, the Sword of Damocles, which constantly hangs above their head. So what I'm saying is comparing that to people that are on this giant cocktail of different medications, one to treat this and then the other ones to balance out the side effects of this, which are used to treat the conditions you first had. It's like you're constantly playing this game where you're in this balance. You're trying to get into this balance. And a lot of people aren't even in a balance. They're in some strange alternate reality. That was it.
Oh, that's why I tend to listen to nutritionists more than doctors in a lot of ways. I mean, they had conflicting things too, but I just don't feel like I think they're not trying to put you on Medicaid. I just don't like medicines. If you need it, yeah, but man, I've known people who would take medicine after medicine for stuff like, I think if you just ate right, you wouldn't need to take all these. But they make so much money off the treatment.
There's an aversion from personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this. I got to see the rest of Tim Pool did a video on this. I think she was a morbid obese sex therapist who said it's dieting is a white supremacist thing. And I was like, what? So if you go on a diet, that's some form of white supremacy?
To be real, man, I do think that there is a focus on some media outlets that go after like authoritarian left. They look for examples, even the smallest examples, and they pick it out. Like, I'm not saying that they're not ridiculous, like this therapist that you're talking about. But I do feel like at a certain point, like, people have made a career off of chasing down SJWs, and I feel like they sometimes stretch themselves out just to find, like, the smallest examples of it. But this, you said it was a sex therapist?
She was an obese.
An obese?
She was fat, and her thing is. Now I'm assuming a lot of these people. I mean, I don't know who. I don't really fault anybody for it. If they're running the channel, I don't have to watch it, or nobody has to watch them. So they're going to do what they're going to do, or report on. And some of the stuff I found out, I don't hear mainstream media talk about. So there's that. But
well, a lot of the mainstream television media is not going to punch left very often.
But also, I don't know.
No, I mean that what you're talking about. If you know what you're saying, you said weight watching is
well, she's
white
trying
supremacist tactic.
She's trying to make going on a diet as because there's been a lot of this body positivity stuff going on lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's like people who don't want to exercise, they're trying to tell you it's good to be overweight and unhealthy. And that's a jacked up message. And I'm not the for the kids type of person, but I got a kid and I don't want someone telling her that or getting some idea that, oh, it's okay to be overweight and unhealthy. Now there's some overweight people that can be healthy, but
yeah, it's okay to be those things if you want to die early.
But I don't think
if you want to get diabetes,
encouraging people to tell people there's a link to going on a diet is some link to white supremacy.
I'd be curious to know how she connects those things.
Yeah, that's why I got to finish the video because I saw the title of it. I was like, I got to catch this later because I thought she was just saying. When I first, because some other YouTuber was brought it up, it was along with another story. I didn't get to. Oh, it was a story about over in UK. They're talking about banning handshaking because it's shaking hands because of the Me Too movement, basically. So
well, I mean, I'd like to know who's saying that. Is it just one individual person? Because I've heard just as crazy things in the U.S. Did you hear about that politician in California that wanted to decriminalize not informing someone that they have HIV before having sex with him?
No.
Yeah, this was a while ago, but that basically sums up what was going on. I believe the bill actually passed.
What?
Their reasoning was that they thought that it was dehumanizing to people with HIV to criminalize not informing your partner before sex that you have HIV, which is still ridiculous. But like,
so
I get it. If you have HIV, I understand. You probably don't want to be seen as the Walking Dead. You don't want to be seen as like a walking plague. But you're gambling with someone else's life in that situation. And to not decriminalize it not only takes away the incentive to not do it, but you're normalizing something like that.
No, see, I can't get with that, man. Either, no, tell a person, no, I can't. That's just fucked up to me. If you know you got something and you have sex with somebody, you don't inform them because you're not giving them the choice to.
I don't think I'm being too radical when I say that's murder.
Yeah, that is murder. Yeah.
I mean, you're dooming someone with an incurable virus or a virus that leads to an incurable disease. Wow. At least at the time of this recording, maybe they've come up with a cure for AIDS as of Monday. Probably not. Was that too dark?
They worry about people's feelings. That's just what I don't understand.
Yeah,
is everybody?
Yeah.
Man, my feelings. They say fuck logic, fuck everything else. It's all about how you feel. And feeling. That's why I'm. Feelings, man. Emotions get you in trouble. In my opinion.
I think I've asked you this before, but have you ever read Fahrenheit 451?
Mm-mm.
I would recommend that. Ray Bradbury, written back in the first half of the 20th century. It was about a future where the firemen no longer put out fires. They started fires. They burned books. Books are outlawed because they have too many conflicting opinions which piss people off. And so they decided, well, let's just burn the books. Now, if you look at it from Bradbury's time, books were the most popular form of media. So if you just apply that to modern time, well, you just take away the access to different internet websites or creators or things like that. So for the record, two political books I recommend.
Okay.
That in 1984.
Yeah, we were talking about that the other day, how we're in 1984 should be a warning, not a handbook. But it feels like she read it. I think she said she read it in high school. And that was written, 1940s, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the author was a liberal.
Well, liberals were, for real, back, this shit here is not liberals.
No, well, I mean, again, that's getting into the weeds of the terms, but basically Orwell, the author, was part of the left, as he put it. He represented the left. And a lot of people like to frame 1984 as being a warning against far-left authoritarianism. The funny part is that it could also be a warning against far-right. It's just fringe political.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want the other side. I've seen that side, too, back in the 90s. I don't want that shit again. Is this just swinging the other way? It's just weird. Anyway.
Well, what's strange is that the swings they seem to become a little further. They seem to be going a little further every time that they swing recently.
Yeah.
Mostly it seems on the social level. A lot of people seem to just focus on social issues, but that's a whole nother issue going beyond that.
Fortunately,
people don't talk about foreign issues or economic issues. It's always just about, the low-hanging fruit. Who's getting pissed off about this?
And unfortunately, it's creeping into our entertainment where we have no way of escaping it. Yeah. At least from what I don't like thinking about this shit. But damn, it's like if I play a game, I gotta hear somebody worried about a thigh or a breast window or somebody's cleavage. But you're okay with shooting people in the face. Weird.
What if you shot them in the face and their nipple popped out?
Oh, they would complain about the nipple. Like, are you serious?
Forget the head.
The dude's head just got blown off. You're worried about? No, it had to be a female because apparently it's okay for men to be naked, but not women. I don't understand. I still don't understand that. Didn't women fight for the right to wear what they wanted to wear in real life, but then they get offended by fictional characters? You're more concerned about fiction that I don't get that.
Well, I think
I feel like these people
I think if you generalize, obviously I'm not saying you do this, but when people generalize an entire movement under what some people do, then it starts to become disingenuous. It starts to become inaccurate. I would say the same about conservatives. They're not all a bunch of Bible-thumping evangelicals.
I generalize everybody.
Well, I mean, it's fun to, but it's not accurate.
But that's the thing. If a large number of people or group of people do something, of course it's not everybody. But again, it doesn't work the other way. If you say something positive, it is not 100% their way either. But we don't jump on someone for saying, "Hey, Asians are good cooks." Oh, not all. It's only when you say if you make a good generalization, nobody.
Yeah. I forget where I first heard that, but yeah, nobody complains about good generalizations.
It's the bad ones that people want to say, well, I know it's not 100% their way either. It's a silly thing to think either way that it's 100% that way, but if a stat or a number shows that this group is more likely to do this, the generalization of that makes sense to me.
Mm. And that's where you start. Are you familiar with the bell curve?
Huh?
Are you familiar with the bell curve?
Mm-mm.
So, let me get the wording on this because I really don't want to butcher this one. This is an argument that a lot of racists use to justify their opinions. So the bell curve, and this is according to Investopedia, the bell curve is a general term used to describe a graphical depiction of a normal probability distribution whose underlying standard deviations from the median create the curve bell shape. Yeah, I know, that was like a $10 sentence right there, but let me keep going. A standard deviation is a measurement used to quantify the variability of data dispersion in a set of given values. So basically, when people talk about the bell curve, they're usually applying it to race. So basically, at the center of the bell curve, we're talking about different patterns that show up in different parts of society. The center of the bell curve is where it's at its highest. And that's generally where you find the average people, whether it comes to average income or intelligence. And intelligence is where a lot of people like to use the bell curve. At the center you find the averages, and then you find minorities more at the far end on the right and the far end on the left. Not politically right or left, but just as the far end top and the far end bottom. And so basically people like to use that argument as a shortcut to saying, oh, well, look, this race is smarter than that race, even though they ignore a lot of the conditions that people from different races grow up in. Let's see here. An Intelligence and Class Structure in American Life is a 1994 book by psychologist Richard Herrnstein and political scientist Charles. Man, we're getting really far away from Capcom. Basically, I was just talking about this theory that people use to try and justify racial supremacy. Basically, they say, well, you see, more people of this color are at this end, while more people at this color are at this end. And so clearly, while ignoring other factors, we're better. Okay, so Capcom.
Yes.
One more thing I have to say. Yo Noid.
The pizza thing? The pizza mascot? They did that? Damn,
No, they didn't develop it. They produced it. Now Production actually developed it.
Oh, okay. No, I do remember the game, though, I think. I remember the commercial. I could swear, I think they did have a game. I used to want to... Was it Pizza Hut? Or was it... the hell was that mascot for? I used to want a figurine of that thing when I was little.
Yeah, the Noid was the mascot of Domino's Pizza in the late 80s.
I forgot Domino's was out that long. We always went to Pizza Hut or Pandera Pizza.
Pantera?
I think it's Pantera's or Pandera's Pizza.
No, it was Pantera. My dad used to work there when he first moved to St. Louis.
Yeah, Pantera's Pizza. I don't know. I don't think there's one around anymore.
I know Pantera for making heavy metal.
Yeah, I heard of the pizza before I heard of them. Because when I first heard it, I'm like, oh, they're named after the pizza place. Like, no. I'm like, oh, it's a rock band.
Yeah, it was a pizza place. I don't know what it was like. It was I remember the one that my parents actually both worked there. That's where they met. It was the one in... North County, basically. And now it's a bar. But yeah. But anyway, Yo Noid on the NES was actually a localization of a Japanese game called Kamen no Ninja Hanamaru. So they basically just replaced the sprites. It was a ninja platformer.
This is like weird. Cool spot. Like, what do you do with a mascot? Like, how would you make a game around a mascot that was never part of a game? Like,
well, what do you do with Ronald McDonald? They made games for him.
yeah, I mean,
They just follow the trend of the time. Remember Pepsi Man?
yeah, I remember Pepsi Man. Yeah, I guess. You ever play those? When I was teaching my little students to play these little free games where they were like run and jump on. It was very generic, but I can see like a 3-year-old maybe liking a Ronald McDonald game because they don't have to put much effort into a game like that. But talking about putting a game on, I guess you could say the same thing for those games. I just wouldn't know what to come up with. I've had to come up with a game for, say, what's a mascot now that's out that's not game related? I guess like a basketball.
Minions?
I guess I would have them play basketball then. Not them. I was thinking about basketball mascots. Like if I were to make a video game about them, I guess I would just have them play basketball. Jesus, I don't think people do.
Man. I don't follow sports. Basketball
No,
mascots.
I'm just even outside of sports. I'm just the first thing I thought about was sports mascots. If I was to take them and make a game out of it, but I would just make the game out of whatever sport they're mascotting for. I'm trying to say like a restaurant or a car. What's that thing with the wavy dude that be at the car parking lots with the air? What was that called?
Be at the car parking lots with the air?
The thing, if you go to like a car lot that sells cars, it's got the balloon dude waving. There's like a fan that's blowing him. He looks like a letter T, but it's got a face.
Oh, the wacky waving arms inflatable tube guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only name I know him as.
Now, if I were to make a video game about that, how would I? What would I do with that? That's like.
Oh, it would be a tower defense. It'd be a tower defense. There would be a bunch of like rogue birds trying to poke holes in your balloon and take you down. So you got to whack them off with your arms, waving from side to side. So you control the arms.
But wouldn't the arms be full of air if the beaks hit the arms? Wouldn't it deflate them?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. They'll slap them. It's fine.
I guess you use video game logic.
Yeah, use video game logic.
Every other part of his body can be damaged but his arms, which is made out of the same shit.
Well, it's because he's moving them really fast. They can't be hurt if you're moving really fast.
If you get to levels where it's higher, you get more birds, though. Do you get power-ups to protect his arms?
Well, I'd imagine, yeah, they'd eventually turn into like robot arms. They'd be stronger. And
but
maybe you could like, shoot
down.
out guided lasers from different parts of the arm.
But then if he's made with soft material, he wouldn't be able to hold up those arms because they're made of metal, which would bring them down.
Well, no, there would be a highly flexible polysynthetic skeleton that would be able to bend with the wind, but also hold the tube guy up at the same time.
What happens if the boss is a firebird?
Water.
That'd be a shit game, man. I wouldn't know what to do with this game. But they figured out how to do with the Noid and Cool Spot, and Pepsi Man, so I guess. What other ridiculous?
Well, the Cool Spot never had to worry about fire.
Yeah, but he shot bubbles out of his hands in the video game that I have still. He shot.
Aren't bubbles threatening?
I mean, they killed the enemies on the game.
You remember Wart from Mario 2? All he had was bubbles.
To throw?
That's all he attacked you with.
Oh, yeah.
He would just puke up bubbles. That was his only defense.
Well, see,
At least Bowser tried to jump on you or throw fire at you. Ward was just like, he was just burping all the time.
See, I can accept the laws of cartoons.
Yeah.
Where, Roadrunner cartoons and Bugs Bunny, where, gravity, and you can pull multiple objects out of your pockets, although you don't have pockets. I get cartoon logic. I get some video game logic, but not all the time, especially, again, when Mortal Kombat developers talking about, we're trying to go for realism. No, man, you can't. I mean, it's a video game for one, and why would I expect the game to be ultra realistic? If anything, there's anything I look for in the game to be realistic about is maybe reflections when you walk past the mirror, or if you get wet when it rains, or but I mean, I understand from a level design, you look at certain objects in the game, you're like, they should be able to crawl under that or climb over it. But because whatever reason, the character is not allowed to do that because of the design of the game, and it would have to do all kind of stuff to make that happen. So you just go with video game logic where he's not able to climb over that. He could go another route. Like there's some places in Resident Evil 2 where like, yeah, if I go this specific way, yeah, but if I went this way, I mean, if this was the real world, you'd be able to climb through this window and you'd be able to avoid certain things. But
well, how do you get cut up by crazy axemen and giants with hammers in RPGs, but you're able to just be healed by eating a piece of cake or taking a tonic? You just have the assumption of video game magic.
That's the other thing too, is you as the main character can use all these items. It's like the other people in the environment don't have access to it, but you.
Well, yeah, you're the hero. You're the good guy. You're the one that counts.
But then you go to areas where you have to find that particular healing item, and there's someone else in there with you. Let's say an NPC. Couldn't that NPC who was injured go in that same bathroom and heal himself? And why can't I offer my healing item to that particular person? So they can heal.
How many of us have been stabbed through the chest with a sword and been unable to recover ourselves?
I mean, plenty of times, but why does it not work in a cinematic, or why doesn't it work for the character? Video game logic.
Because if we just Phoenix down everyone, then there would be no drama.
I know, I'm just saying, that's what's just weird about.
I know.
And I bring up, again, this is the Resident Evil 2 thing where there's a guy helping you through the game. He's injured, but I'm like, can I just give you my healing spray? Because I get bit too, and I could get healed as the protagonist, but the laws of the game doesn't allow me to help. I don't know. I just find it weird if you think about how they have to design the game, because it's like we can't go so far with reality and that's what just makes me laugh about what the developer said at NetherRealm, that they're trying to be more realistic. Like, bitch, stop. You're playing people's intelligence now. You kill a person in the game, they come back for the next round. Okay. That's very realistic. It's just a shit excuse. Just say, oh, we wanted to go this route. Just use the excuse of realism to something that's... You got a dude that can turn into a dragon, shoot fireballs out of his hand, and you're telling me you're going for realism. But just change the female outfits, not the rest of the boy.
We're all very selective about what we decide can work and can't work.
To please 8% of the population.
Or, yeah, what...
Don't play the game.
What we decide
It's
to
just
get
like
behind.
when a door swings both ways in the game. Because, like, well, if I lock this door, I guess it wouldn't matter. But if I was to close this door, thinking I'm safe because it swings one way, the enemy can just come and swing it, open it, because it swings both in and out. And who built this door anyway? Like, there's goofy stuff I always notice playing games sometimes. You just really have to enjoy the game for what they are.
Pretty much. So, anything else on Capcom?
What was the last games they came out with that I enjoyed? I would say Mega Man 11, Resident Evil 2 remake. Although they don't call it remake, but that was its. I think people accept it now as just Resident Evil 2. I think they know they're talking about the current Resident Evil. They've been killing it as far as the fighting games so far. Like Street Fighter V went through a weird. I guess one day we make a. I don't know how to. I do a lot of research, but these companies now are charging $60 for a game and not giving you a complete game. I don't mind DLC if it's adding to the game, but these games are just being put out and they're half done, and then they want to charge you to complete it's like Nintendo right now seems to be the only company giving out an actual full game. And not giving you...
Yeah, and a lot of those releases are, kicked down the line. There are some originals, but there are some that are just ports of games that have already been out for a while. And even those include some DLC.
You talking about Switch games?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, even new games. I mean, Yoshi's...
Nintendo's been the best about it.
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm getting half a game and then they're going to fix it. They do fix some bugs and stuff, updates, but if you get a PlayStation or Xbox One game, you're lucky to get anything that's a complete game and not buggy. Like, man, I was looking so forward to Fallout 60. Was it 76?
Yeah, 76.
Man, that thing was having so many issues. That I just lost interest in it. It's like, we're gonna. Well, this is what happened with Street Fighter 7 V. The numeral. That's numeral. No, what's the numeral?
V is 5.
Roman numeral V. Is that 7? 5.
V is 7. I'm sorry. V is 5. VII is 7.
Okay. Street Fighter 5, when it first came out, it had only a story mode, no arcade, and the online was barely working correctly. When they charged $60 for it. Mm-hmm. And then later, it was like 2019 now, but the game came out 2016. And now they've gotten it to where it's kind of stable. But it was like, why would you... They didn't let people know they were giving us half a game. They didn't charge us half the price. And then they charge you for new characters and stages.
No, right.
Again,
they didn't start out with half of a game. I mean, they did, but they didn't make it seem like that. And then they would introduce the other part of the game gradually.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, it is annoying, especially when you're charging over the standard mark for a game price in the beginning. You should have something that's solid and then offer it as a free option. I mean, obviously these add-ons are optional, but when you're making a substantial part of the game part of the DLC, then you're cheating people out of money.
But I do blame us as gamers for, you put out. I think these companies say, let's test the waters and see how far we can take this. And if we buy into it, it's like, oh, well, they're willing to pay for it. So, well, let's take it a step further. Mm-hmm. So, and you blame the buyer or the seller when it comes to that stuff.
Blame both.
Yeah. But I think people are finally, especially when EA was doing the loot boxes and the DLC prices for these, for Battlefront, I think when people really like, whoa, wait a minute, man. But it's like, it took that for people to kind of wake up, though.
Well, they woke up, so that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, man, I still got to get dinner and I got to get up in the morning, so I'm going to end it here.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, Capcom is quite a story. A lot to be said about the company. A lot more to be said around what the company has made, which I think is a good sign of a company that's made a lot of successful franchises.
Yeah, not many companies. Nintendo. I would say Namco. A lot of those Japanese companies I grew up with. Data East? Was that was Japanese, right?
Let me look at that to be sure. I think so, since they're East. Yeah. In Japan, they're called... Oh, boy. Kabushingaisha Data Isuto Corporation. So they took corporation.
Well, my point is,
Yeah,
it's crazy to see all those companies I grew up playing games from those companies, and to see very few companies be able to have all these different characters, or not just characters, franchises that, and be able to make them good and last as long, iconic characters. It's pretty good. You might get a company make one or two. I mean, who does Sega have other than Sonic? I'm sure there's some others, but I'm trying to think.
That's lasted?
That's lasted, yeah.
Well, there's Sonic.
So, do they have... I know they still publish other games.
Alex Kidd is remembered, though, ironically.
Is it? Oh, okay. I mean, could you tell it?
No, you can't tell a young motherfucker about Alex Kidd.
Yeah, could you ask a 7-year-old, you know who
No.
Alex Kidd is? You ask them who Sonic is, they'll know who Sonic is.
Yeah, I can't think of anything on the same level as Sonic or even near.
Yeah, so it's, Nintendo has, look at who they have, and they look at who Capcom has. Namco has who? Pac-Man.
Namco has a lot of strong remnants from the 80s.
They include, they do Ridge Racer and Soul Calibur. So I kind of include Namco in that. Kind of. I don't think they have a big as a live as maybe Capcom and Nintendo, but I think that's impressive that a company can have so many franchises and fucking succeed with them, and not just have one or two that this was keeping them afloat, and the rest of them are not much of anything. Not a lot of companies can do that. I have done that. I'm trying to think of any more than that.
That's one of the reasons that we decided to do one on Capcom. It's a strong brand. It was a strong brand back then. It's a strong brand now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I'm just saying, eat your vegetables and play your games. Play your video games.
Be good to each other. And I don't have anything else. Oh, I do have a dad joke. I should end with like a weird dad joke on these because I don't have any fucking outro.
Yeah.
What's the loudest kind of pet?
I don't know what kind.
A trumpet.
Oh, I'm glad we're ending this episode now.
And that is the joke of the week. If you haven't rolled your eyes as hard as I did when I read it, because sometimes when I read them out to people, like, look, I cringed when I read it. I'm sorry, but I had to. It's like something that tastes bad. You tell somebody else to taste it. Like, why do I want to taste that? It tastes bad. Why are you giving me something that tastes bad? I want to give out.
You want to know how bad it. You want them to know how bad it tastes.
Yeah. You know how bad the damn jokes are. So I don't feel alone. Yeah.
Sometimes a funeral can be a show, folks.
Exactly. All right, man.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, we'll do it again in 2 weeks then, huh?
Yep.
We'll figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. See you later.
Peace.